Good morning. It's the MTK on the MIC with the podcast. Probably the last. Because what's going to happen next is a shift. A radical shift in mentality is about to happen, folks. Sometime in the next 20 hours or so for you, it's going to change. Everything's going to change. The entire universe is going to change. It will no longer be 2023. It will no longer be 2566. It'll be 2024. 2567. And your entire life is going to change. Everything about you is going to change. You'll leave everything in the past. Forget everything that ever happened in the past. Dump it. Doesn't exist. And you will enter the new year with gleaming, glistening skin. Go. Of course, I'm kidding. Time knows nothing of years. We impose onto nature the sense and idea of time. A human order, right? For how long things are, or when things will happen, or what to do tomorrow, or projecting, when in fact the only thing that exists is the now, the present. And on the last day of the calendar year, I guess that's the way to say that, this is the last MTK podcast. See, there's too much voice and not enough authenticity. That's the problem with doing a podcast or doing radio, is that you have to put on something. I don't really want to put something on anymore. Now, I do want to cover the election next year, but it would be great if I could just have access like I had as a journalist. By the way, I am a member of the National Writers Union. I do have a membership card, and I would like press passes to anything that I ask for, please. But independent of that, it would be nice to be able to make a YouTube channel that's non-monetized, like the one you're sitting there listening to this on right now. A non-monetized YouTube channel. And I had press passes, and I could go everywhere the journalists can go, and I could report on the election. That would be a good way for me to address and approach looking at the election next year here in the United States. But that's not really possible. The idea of it is like a C-SPAN, right? C-SPAN, if you don't know, if you're one of my listeners abroad, it's the one respite for policy people is C-SPAN, which was started, I believe, during the era of cable television. And I think Ted Turner could be responsible to some degree for this. But anyway, the channel is a government and policy channel that runs 24/7, 365, and covers all major events from a, like the Associated Press portends to do, from a extra-governmental, non-biased, subjective reporting uh, stance. That's the idea at C-SPAN. And they have call-in shows, which is pretty interesting too, because their hosts maintain that stance while the callers lose their minds, which is pretty hilarious. Now, to return to the point at hand, next year's election is important, but there are elections all over the world too, and there are going to be more than ever in history. So one of the things I do want to do is also pay attention to that. So, what do I do? What does MTK do? Well, how about get your chops back? All right. How do I do that? Well, riff 15 podcasts real quick. Okay, what am I supposed to talk about? I don't know. Talk about the most radical things you can think of. Create a little space for yourself. Okay, okay, then what? Then, uh, don't produce on this channel anymore, but create a new channel to report on elections next year here on YouTube, probably using just the mic, not camera. Uh, in order for me to do this, this is what I need. I need to set up the channel, and I'm gonna need some money. So this is gonna be the first time I ever ask for funds through the internet in this way. But what I'll probably do is set up the channel so that it has a, you know, what do they have? Buy me a cup of coffee? Isn't there something like that, or like who knows? But this is not going to be one of those things that has large commitments of cash to it. But I'd rather have something like cup of coffee or donate $10 and $5 goes to a charity or something. If I'm being very honest about the mechanics of the funding for this project. But what's the frame of reference? Are you a Republican? Are you a Democrat? No, neither. Are you an independent? No. Are you a green? Well, I am green, but I'm not a member of the party. No. The whole point of doing journalism is you stay outside of it, so I am non biased. You have to look at me as if I'm a non voting robot going around covering things. Okay, that's the attitude. And that should be the attitude of journalists, too, everywhere. But whatever, it isn't anymore. We're now doing shout down this hole. Shout down the hole. Okay, so this is, I think, what it's going to be. It's going to be called A Dream Some of Us Have. A dream some of us have. Just a dream some of us have. And the basis is going to be pacifism. And our demand is going to be very simple. We've been asking for it since Kucinich, and I believe on the Hill right now it is represented by Barbara Lee, I believe, is the person who is sponsoring this bill, which sits. By the way, you do know that there are many idealistic notions that the Congress people, as corrupt as they are, they have to pass because they can't be seen on the record as having said, no to this obviously good idea. And then they languish because they never make it to the floor. They never get voted out of committee or they just don't get moved on. And this is one of those. One of the simplest ideas ever, the Department of Peace. The creation of a Department of Peace. An additional cabinet member the president appoints. The department should be funded by 1% of the budget of the Department of Defense. So you take 1% of the Pentagon's budget, just 1%, and you create a new department of the government, the Department of Peace. It has a cabinet member. That cabinet member has to have equal standing. I know we don't think of the Department of the Interior or the education minister, if you will, as having that kind of equal footing because 45 and really starting with Clinton, these guys, no, starting with Reagan, well, maybe starting with Kennedy. Anyway, all these guys have created a cult of personality around the presidency to make it a singular head thing. And that's what this Department of Peace head will be too, just another functionary. But they should be able to intervene before war. They should be able to make speeches, impassioned speeches, on behalf of the anti war population. We need a representative in government that is appointed by the president solely for peace. This is a simple request. It's already on the Hill. A dream some of us have.